Hello. In the Crown of Aragon 639 years ago, it was February 18th, 1387. My name is Jonathan Seyfried. I'm a PhD candidate in history at the University of New Mexico. And this is the Historian's Notebook, a podcast about how history gets made. Season 1 is titled Molt companiona. We're looking at a document from each day of the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violant de Bar. Let's begin today's document. Alright, today's document is one that will knock your socks off. I just couldn't believe what I was reading when I came upon this letter in one of Violant's registers, the Varia. And believe me, this Varia, I think what happened is that they just were getting organized with a lot of the setup for the registers for the new reign. And so Varia is actually all this stuff put together that would have normally been in the secret seal or other things. There's just a lot of secret seal documents in the Varia. And so I think that the reason we have a Varia register here is because of the big transition period as the closeout of Pare's archives takes place, and then the setup of the archives for the new king and queen are getting going. So these letters, they're in the middle of others that are not secret seal, but these are definitely, these are secret seal. All right. I don't even know where to begin. Should I just tell you the big headline here? All right. Violant is admitting that Joan was very sick. It's the first time that I've seen her do this. It's February 18th, and no one has included these particular letters in the histories of Joan's illness. So Josep Roca, who really did the foundational archival work about Joan's illness in this year, has identified documents from April that he says are retrospective, that talk about this time in the early months of the year. And then we also have Jaume Riera y Sans, who has done work and has found documents from January itself. And I'm trying to think of who else. I'll put more citations in the bibliography. But basically, I think Rafael Tassisi Marca has identified that there's documentation for Joan's illness in January. And we can infer from his lack of movement to Barcelona in those first weeks of January, based on the letters that we've seen in the itinerary put together by Daniel Girona y Llagostera, and then just looking at the registers themselves, he's just not in Barcelona when, by all accounts and reasons, he should have been taking the throne there in Barcelona. So we know that he has gone through this illness in January, and the question is, how long has it lasted? How much has it been lingering? And here we have a document in February, middle of February. Well, actually, yeah. And here we've got this admission from Violant that there has been big trouble. I'm going to read out this letter in full. It is about 12 lines long. All right, so we have Violant, not at the beginning with La Reina, but at the end, she signs it off as La Reina. So it starts, Molt pare e senyor sapia vostra senyoria que lo senyor e marit meo es estat distrasiat de malaltia, de febre, e altres accidents, e es vui per la qual distresio. Io son estada e no sens raho torbada, pero merced de Dieu, lo dit senyor es fora de perill, segons que tots los metges dihen perque ho notific a nos senyor que si algunes noves contraries habiets oides sapiats la veritat, e que habiats consolatio de les males noves qu'en pens vos han dites, et si del meo senyor vos plaus saber certific vostra senyoria, que lo jorn de la date de les presents, yo en mos fils estavem be, supplicants vos que alpus sovin qu'es pora fer del estament vostre, me certifiquets car serva cosa de que aure soberan player, et si algunes coses car pare e senyor valets que faça manats me, lo sant spirit sia vostra garda. Scrita en Barcelona, sots lo sigel secret meo accostumant a the 18th of February of 1387, La Reina. I did the dates in English because I always get tripped up, and they're in Roman numerals anyway. All right, so she's writing to her father, and I will also say that I'm going to include on the webpage for this document a letter that appears in an earlier folio that she writes to her brother, and it's a little bit more circumspect than this one to her father, but it's the same sense. This one to her father is saying that, and it's in the second line of the letter, which is at the very bottom of folio 86V, that my husband was, and then this verb is a tough one because it doesn't seem to have really gone through. I think there's some spelling difference because the best definition I could find was distracted, but I think something like thrown off course or disturbed. So distrasiat de malaltia, de febre. So thrown off by or disturbed by malaltia, illness. There's the word, illness. That word has been glossed over and referred to by euphemism in a lot of the earlier documents by saying, arduis negocies, difficult business, or accidents. And then we've got accidents in this line too, but malaltia is actually said. And not only that, but Violant specifies it further with the word for fever, febre, which, interestingly enough, is very close to the word for February. So, I don't know the etymological relationship there, but there's great similarity. But anyway, malaltia de febre, illness of fever. And then she adds, d'altres accidents, and other misfortunes. Whew. I mean, she just has admitted it. Why? Well, we get the answer a little bit later, But first, she adds 2 lines of reassurance that he's today okay, and on the next page, on folio 87R, line 2 at the end, tots los meches dihen. All the doctors say he is out of danger, as fora de perill. So he's okay now is the main point that she's trying to get across. Why does she need to say this? It's because she is aware that there have been rumors, reports. A rumor that is true would be a report. There's been a leak of the information out and about. And so she's become aware that others found out. And she refers to this as alcunes noves contraries, some contrary news. And that's in line 3 of folio 87R. So Violant is definitely reassuring her father, and he can spread the word, I guess, that Joan is okay. And she also, later in the letter, talks about her own children are all okay. Everybody is okay. And so this letter is one that, well, confirms a bunch of things. First, that they were not successful in keeping Joan's illness secret. I guess that's not really a shocker. Everybody had to have noticed that Joan was not in Barcelona, and Violant was in those early weeks in January. So word leaked out, and now they're doing damage control. It also confirms something about the speed of the correspondence. So here we are in February 18th, and it seems to me that Joan was okay by the end of January. So are we seeing here a delay in the transmission of information? I'm not quite sure where in France Violant's father is located at this time. Is he all the way in the county of Bar, which is actually close to today's border between France and Germany? Or is he in Paris? I'm not sure. By the way, Violant's father's name is Robert de Bar. So where is Robert de Bar right now? And has he written to Violant telling her that he's heard that Joan has been deathly ill and that there could be a serious problem with the succession? Well, I don't know. But it definitely confirms that there is this communication lag of at least a couple weeks. And the fact that she's sending this letter out on February 18th and not January 29th says something possibly about communication time frames. Or maybe not. There's another possibility that Joan's illness has lingered, and that even though he's physically able to get to Barcelona by January 19th, that's the day when he starts signing his letters from Barcelona. Even though he's been there for weeks, like since January 19th, he emerged out of peril in only the last week or so. So Violant maybe is writing with more fresh news than we might otherwise think if we are inferring that Joan was all better by the time he got to Barcelona on January 19th. So, is it a lingering illness, or is it a communication time lapse issue? Those are the questions that I'm trying to sort out, and I hope that in some documents that I encounter between now and that big one in April, that I'll find a clue about that. But to see the phrase malaltia de febre, sickness of fever, in a letter from Violant about Joan, that was a shocker. I did not expect her to say that. And maybe the fact that she is feeling comfortable using that phrase is an indication that Joan has been well for at least a couple weeks. So many questions about this one. Goodness. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Historian's Notebook, Season 1, Molt cara compagnona. If you are leaving with more questions than you arrived with, well, I hope so, because, goodness, there's some nice, juicy questions from this one. If you've got one of those in your mind now, I've done my job. Remember, the motto of the Historian's Notebook is dissatisfaction guaranteed. Visit the website to see an image of today's document and additional show notes, including a reprise of all of the sources that I found about Joan's illness. And listen again tomorrow to hear about the next day in the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violant de Bar. In the meantime, take care.